everybody? Welcome back to another episode. I believe we're on episode 51. I was going to say the number, but I'll probably get it wrong, and Roger will ridicule and yell at me later for it. So I won't. Hey, we appreciate everybody out there listening.
You just did.
Thanks to Carlton Zeus for letting us use your music. I don't even know if you're still listening to us anymore, but if you do, or somebody who knows Carlton, tell him that we really appreciate him letting us use his music on this. We have a lot to bring at you today. A lot. We got everything from the Texas storms, Governor of New York Cuomo sexually assaulting people as he's killing Gam. We got Jim Psaki, who I forget, somebody tweeted it or something. It's like she's the student who's trying to give a book review of a book she didn't read. That's what she sounds like as she's up there. And there's some other things. Biden's killing children in Syria again with airstrikes. He just know that you got Syria got missiles before you got your next COVID check. So there's that.
Hey, kids are back in cages. But it's only temporary.
Yeah, temporary holding facility with bars on it. I think we call those jails, right? Holding facilities.
But they got a trailer. They got a trailer that says like "Bienvenido" with flowers and vases in them. Come on, dude.
They put bars on the window of a chew. And it was like Bienvenidos. I think it's got a Chigo and a mat in there, and that's it. It's not even.
You think it's got a Chigo?
It probably has a Chigo.
You think so? I'm not even sure they have a Chigo. I'm going with swamp cooler, dude. It's a swamp cooler, dude. You're not going with a Chigo.
For our non-Spanish speaking listeners out there, Bienvenidos does not mean jail.
No. It
doesn't mean
it's kind of like you. It's kind of like the entrance to Auschwitz. Work will set you free. It's cool though. It's cool though.
Was that up at like Folsom or Attica or anything like that? Welcome.
Bienvenidos. It's but it's Joe.
Liberal Hollywood and all that stuff. You said Folsom. I was thinking, man, I could be a PR person for like liberal Hollywood, liberal, stardom these days, because what they should do with some of these liberal leaders, and you may see this, somebody's going to listen to this Culper's Canteen Cup and be like, holy crap, these guys have some good ideas. What they need to do is like, who's a liberal singer? I don't know, Ariana Grande or something should go do a concert outside the holding facilities like Johnny Cash did in Folsom.
Yeah.
Hey, right? Right? Yeah.
Yes, I love it.
We call it money for Mexicans.
I love it. So a lot to throw at you today. You'll have to forgive Luke's video. He's currently staying at the house, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, and they don't have the internet there is not the best. I don't know where he's out in West Texas somewhere. I don't know, the Candelaria. It's right on the border. Something I don't know. So, but given that, so we're just gonna jump right into the Texas winter storms and the dismal performance of the Great Republic of Texas and their inhabitants in this last winter storm. I'm gonna push it over to Luke as our resident Texan, because he's going to lead this off. And I'm telling you right now, if you're a Texan, you are probably not going to like this episode. So, Luke, there you go. Let's get your fellow Texans in the right headspace and kick this off.
He teed it up nice for me. And those of you out there who are going to get mad about this, come on, we all know, who you are. I know some people handle it really well and some people did not. Before that, I'll give you the trip itinerary so you can get my perspective. I am back in the States for a temporary vacation, whatever, for a little bit. We're going back in March, mid-March. And we stopped in Alabama first. And if we would have tried to fly from Frankfurt to DFW, the flight would have been canceled because the storm was hitting pretty hard. So when the storm hit really hard, we were in Alabama. And we started reading about it on that Monday, I guess, last week, Monday of a couple weeks ago from when you'll hear this podcast. And I was watching the news and everything, and we actually ended up flying in on a Thursday to Love Field. And it was the first day that they were flying into Love Field for 2 or 3 days. Everything had been canceled. And on a side note, what I found was very entertaining was we flew Southwest Airlines from Atlanta to Love Field in Dallas. And as we're getting on the plane, Southwest was being very fastidious about make sure you maintain your social distance. Everybody wear your mask. Social distance, sir. You're standing 5.3 feet from that other person. You need to back it up to 6. Being, okay, everybody in line, stay 6 feet away. And then we got on an airplane that was completely full. Completely full. I mean, no middle seats open. The plane was completely full. And I'm like, oh my God, So I feel y'all's pain on what you've been dealing with in the States for the last year, and I got to experience a little bit of that. So when we landed in Dallas, the roads were still pretty bad. The highways were cleared out. There was so much salt on there. I don't think there's going to be ice on those roads for probably 10 years on the highways. But on the side roads, yeah, it was bad, but it's not the worst I've ever seen it in Texas. Not even close. And granted, it was the end of the storm. Things were starting to warm up. But maybe we can kick this one around a couple times. I'm just kind of giving you my perspective on it. Or maybe I should just jump right into it. I'll jump into it.
Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up in Amarillo, Texas, where I am now. Shout out to the owners of the Archer House on Airbnb. If you go through Amarillo sometime, stay at the Archer House. You'll find it on Airbnb. It's a really cool historical building. Internet, as you can see, is okay. It's good enough. But it's really cool to stay in this house. So shout out to the Archer House on Airbnb. But like I said, I grew up in Amarillo, and we had some pretty harsh winters. It's funny, you tell people you grew up in Texas, and they're like, well, it doesn't get cold in Texas. Yeah. I mean, it's retarded. It's the R word. I think we can leave that in there. Don't worry about it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we're
good. Slip of the tongue there. It's ridiculous. It gets bitterly cold in the high plains of Texas. It's not uncommon for, it's in some winters for it to get well below zero and the wind chill to be up to -30 to -50 because the wind blows really hard up here. We had some rough storms when I was growing up. I mean, I remember losing power in a residential neighborhood for a couple days. I remember, a couple times we had to take our sleeping bags and sleep next to the fire. Blankets and sleeping bags because the power was out. I remember having to dig out of our cul-de-sac. It took us 2 whole days to dig out so that my dad could go to work and we could just go anywhere. Grocery stores shut down. My point is that I remember in my lifetime, this has happened before and it's happened more than once. Now, my disclaimer for Chris in particular and Dave, who also live in Texas, on this winter storm in particular, and Josh is not gonna agree with me, but I'm gonna give everyone south of Abilene, Texas, pull out a map and look at it. Anyone south of Abilene, Texas, I'm gonna give a pass because they did get it pretty rough. And weather like that that's a 20 or 30 year storm, maybe even longer. When you get down to Galveston and things are, turtles are freezing in the sea, that's real. So I'll give them a pass. And also you got to figure, if it's a 30 to 50 year storm, the governments are not going to tax people to have, all the salt spreaders in Houston, Texas, and snow plows and stuff like that. It doesn't make sense. You deal with it when it comes and it's going to be bad, but it's also going to be every, 5 decades or so. North of Abilene, on the other hand, I'm not going to give people passes. I'd encourage people to, anyone who is like, well, Luke, you just don't remember right. Go back and listen to our prepper episode. Go back and listen to that. Anyone who's oh God, and it's a touchy thing because, you had a lot of apartment buildings and schools in North Dallas that were without power, pipes burst, big problem, a lot of insurance claims up there. But on the other, a lot of this stuff that I saw, the pipes bursting in office buildings and schools and apartment complexes and houses were all new construction, most of them. you didn't have any of the old buildings. Like this house I'm staying in dates back to the early 1900s. It was built. There were no problems with this house. They knew how to build them back then. Now, there's a difference between construction in like Minnesota and construction in Texas. It's cheaper to build, it's cheaper and more expedient to build things in Texas without, winterizing them. And that's basically what happened. With apartment buildings, schools, and stuff like that, they weren't planning on in North Texas, they weren't planning on the 10 to 20 year storm. And, but up in Amarillo, where I am now, I mean, the construction is pretty good. I don't think it shut down much. I don't think a lot of people were complaining this high up, and I think they were a little surprised when they looked at the news and saw that this was a national catastrophe. Because it's like, well, this shit happens every 5 to 7 years up here. I have my own theories on. I got a lot more to say, but I'll kick it to Roger first. I have Trump is slowly becoming a non-story. The news is going to glom onto any type of anything that's going to be a catastrophe or something that's going to hold eyeballs for a whole week. But by that Saturday up in Dallas, the streets were clear, completely clear. It was 70 degrees outside. It was beautiful. I went walking in shorts and a short sleeve shirt. And I was like, where's the national catastrophe? It's just not. I know a lot of people lost a lot, and a few people died, as they do every time there's a winter storm somewhere. But I still don't see it as a national catastrophe. I really don't. I got a lot more to say, but I'll kick it to Roger on that, and he can vent, and maybe I'll get a chance to talk again. We'll see. Josh is chomping at the bit, but I'm gonna kick.
What was it snowing east of Arizona? Because I don't know, it was still warm and fairly sunny here, so I wasn't really tracking any of that stuff. But no, I think you hit it on the head with the, one, I think we're pretty daggum prophetic. When you look back, I think it was episode 24, pretty awesome post that Josh put out there when we talked about preppers. And, part of it is, it's like the diet. When's the best day to prep? Or the most popular day to prep? Tomorrow. And nobody sees the winter storm warning that they don't pay attention to it. It'll just blow over. And the next thing you know, you get dumped on with a foot or two. And because out here, like I woke up this morning and it's 39 degrees outside in the morning. And then we had these huge swings, which by daytime, it's like 75 or 79. And I'm not going outside until 11 o'clock. But who I feel bad for are the people that, one, if you own a home, there's no reason to be a prepper in some form, some shape, some form, whatever. You may not prep for 2 years, 3 years, or whatever, but you should have, some diesel out there, a bag of rice, some water source, what have you. The ones that, and I really didn't think about it until Luke mentioned it. You have your folks like in your apartment complexes and your condos and that type of stuff. A lot of those folks don't have a whole lot of options. Now you can obviously stock them on rice and beans and maybe to water to an extent, but I mean, like the apartment my wife and I stayed in was 750 square feet. Hey, dude, if it wasn't like her clothes and I had like one pair of underwear that I could turn inside out and wear them backwards and I get 4 days out of them, that's all that was going in this place, right? That's it. So I feel kind of bad. And I never really thought about it until what Luke brought up. But so there's a personal responsibility piece, which it doesn't matter where you live, even here in Arizona. It doesn't matter if you're up north, down south. You're all going to have your different challenges, whether it's tornadoes, whether it's hurricanes, winter warnings, winter storms, snow, what have you. What I think the biggest failure was Texas itself. I mean, when you look at Texas as a state and how they manage their energy, and I am not believe it or not, I'm like an energy and power guru, but my wife did work as a lobbyist for American Clean Coal, so know a little bit about it. I just put up a chart off Newsweek. So as of 2020, 46% of the energy generated in Texas was, that's where I pulled it from, ERCOT, was natural gas. 23% was wind. 18% was coal, which I was surprised. I did not realize it was that low. I did not realize coal had fallen below 45%. 11% was nuclear and 2% was solar. So when you look at, and I think the numbers are kind of all over the place. When you listen to your AOC and your Green New Deal, they're like, Well, that just shows you how the fossil fuel stuff failed, because guess what? A lot of stuff froze, right? And even the coal plants, some of those froze, some of the pipes froze. But when you look at, and I'm a fan of natural gas, but when you look at natural gas, when you look at wind, zero wind was running. I mean, that was like, dude, you saw the pictures and the icicles. Like, yeah, that turbine ain't spinning up anytime soon. Same thing with the natural gas pipes freezing. But they were saying that 50% of the green energy sources across the entire state of Texas were unusable. And to top that off, Texas, I believe, is one of the only, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, independent energy grids in the country, which means they don't have the ability to draw in from other states. So like Arizona, believe it or not, during the summertime, you don't see a whole lot of brownouts here because we can actually draw from Colorado, we can draw from Utah, we draw from California, but we send that shit back, but we can draw from New Mexico or whatever. So we have the ability to pull from other states, just like most of the country does, right? Because everybody's going to have surges and they understand this. But Texas is, they have an independent energy grid along with the shift to green energy. So I think the bigger story, again, there's two pieces to it. There's the personal responsibility piece, which I think, go back and listen to episode 24. Again, very prophetic. You obviously want to be able to prep for 2 years. That'd be great. If you live in a condo or an apartment, I mean, again, maybe you can get some beans, you can get some rice, you can get some sleeping bags. That's probably about the best that you're going to do. But the real failure is on the state itself. They, especially when you look at red-leaning states that have prided themselves on, not just coal, but I think the way that I've seen the Republican states, you use all available energy sources. But you do have to realize, hey, there is a risk there with what you're using, and what's the percentage or the odds that there is going to be failure due to a weather incident or mechanical issue, or how much you're having to pay to repair those. But you should spread that fairly evenly across the board. And when you look at 46% natural gas, 23% wind, I mean, right there we're at 69%. So you're over 2/3 of your grid relies on a natural gas pipe, which, by the way, you can't store natural gas. That's the big problem. We talked about that before. You got the big tanks. You can put that in there. That'll fund a neighborhood for an hour. Unlike coal, which you can just load up and stock that bad boy, stock that stuff on train. And oh, by the way, with wind, if those turbines ain't turning, there ain't no energy coming. So I think, the biggest failure was more on the state. And I do think, in a good sense, it shows, because I don't believe we should just be burning coal and oil. I get it. You need to look at other energy sources. But I think what this has done for the country, and I do believe it set back that whole Green New Deal a little bit, because especially when you had a lot of folks in Texas and maybe even some of the folks in Austin were like, fuck, it's cold. Hey, you a proponent of coal right now? Hell yeah, I am. And so I think when you look at the rhetoric that's come out of it, you had a couple of folks like AOC and this and that come out, and even John Kerry, well, it just shows you how, we got to get better. It's like, no, actually, it gets to the point now with some of the stuff they're spewing, it's just straight lies. Like, we're not even like, it's not even like a Pinocchio meter anymore, where maybe it's just a half truth, or we're stretching the truth, or massaging. It's just straight lies. Well, everything that froze was coal. Well, coal's only 18%. Now, I'm pretty sure the state could have got by if 18% of their, fuel source went down. So that's my take on it. I think Josh is probably going to be a little bit more brutal. He's probably going to say something stupid like, well, we got our episode out there. It's been out there for 3 months now. And if you didn't prep, well, it sucks to be you.
Get it back over to Luke now, because you stole my thunder. So no, so there's a lot to unpack here, right? And both of you brought up some very good points. My whole thing on it is, it's not even, so Luke spoke to growing up there in the Panhandle, and that this happened when he was a kid and stuff like that. Yeah. So the last time this happened, people keep saying this is unprecedented. And as Luke pointed out, this is not unprecedented. This happened in 1983. It happened in 1985, where the outbreaks, they were actually colder than they were this past week, or 2 weeks ago. And so, that bias, that alone right there this is not unprecedented. This happens, every so often. And I get my big issue with this. Not only that, even if this didn't happen, but once every 50 to 100 years, hey, boys and girls, What happened last year? What happened last year when you couldn't leave your house? There were people on the news that were like, we ran out of food in, 2 days. We didn't have food in our house. Who the hell doesn't have 2 days of food in their house, especially after COVID, right? After the COVID quarantines and lockdowns, you don't have 2 days of food in your house? Dude, I've got enough food in my house. You could ration that out. We could probably, it's not going to be fun, right? It's not going to be, you're not going to have a 5-course meal every night. But I get enough food in my house, ration it out. We could probably go 3 weeks easy.
Oh yeah,
right. And that's people just. COVID's still a thing. It's still going on. You don't know when you're going to get locked down again. And if the last 12 months didn't teach you anything, I don't know what to say. But I think that really speaks to the country's attention span and this, the 240 character limit attention span that we have. People don't even remember what happened 12 months ago. They're looking at 12 days ago. So there's that. And then the people who, it's like, well, I didn't eat for 48 hours. Really? You didn't eat for 48 hours? I hope you survived. I'm glad you survived. But 48 hours? Dude, if I remember SEER school correctly, we were in a little box almost as long. We were in there for like 34, 36 hours in a little box. And it wasn't like I didn't eat. No, it was like you were in a little box and couldn't, barely stand up for 36 of those hours. So when you say I didn't have 48 hours, of food in my house, I have zero sympathy for you. I honestly have zero sympathy for you, even if you live in an apartment. Broken water lines, busted water lines, I get it. It happens. And for those that, who live in apartment complexes and stuff like that, yeah, that sucks. There's not a whole lot you could do about that. Your power goes out. Okay, I got you. Your power goes out. But there was one incident in Houston where an 11-year-old kid froze to death. An 11-year-old kid froze to death in Houston. And that really, it shocked me, one, because, it's a kid. And I don't like to see bad things happen to kids. But, a couple things kind of hit me. One, it was like, okay, where were your parents at? The parents were in the house. How do you let it get to the point to where your 11-year-old child freezes to death? Dude, I don't care what it is. I will be burning my furniture in my yard to generate heat before I let my kid freeze to death. I will set my damn house on fire to warm everybody before I let my kid freeze to death. I will get in the car, and I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what I hit, what I break. I will get my kids somewhere to get them warm before I let my kid freeze to death. That just, I don't know. As for the other part, this is where a lot of those folks, and I'm not talking about the guys like, Chris and Dave and those dudes who, weathered the storm, and it was, it's like, hey man, it sucks. You don't have power. You're cold. But they weren't bitching about, the state should do this, the state should do that, the government should do this, the government should do that. I think this speaks to where we're at as a society right now. When people are uncomfortable for 24 hours, they're like, what's the government doing? What's the government doing for me? You go back and you look at any of the big, natural disasters we've had, earthquakes, in California, Hurricane Andrew, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Camille back in the 60s. Guess what? The government can't help everybody all at once. You own some of that responsibility of taking care of yourself for 72, 96 hours, maybe even 5 days. Before, somebody can come get you, somebody can help you if you're in that, if you're just in that, much of dire straits. But we've gotten away from that. We've gotten away from those folks who, jumped in covered wagons and hit the Oregon Trail to go west. They didn't know what was out there. And, Mary died of dysentery and, two fucking ox, drowned in the Flint River and, this and that, right? But we've gotten rid of that. Now it's like, well, I haven't had power for 24 hours. What is Ted Cruz doing from Cancun for me? Right? What is Biden doing for me? which I like how Biden said, well, I'm not going to travel there right now because I don't want to be a distraction.
He's like the power's out. Why would I go down there now?
Exactly. Exactly. They roasted Trump for doing the same types of things. And Biden's like, well, I don't want to go. I don't want to be a distraction. Everybody's like, look, he's so caring. He's so caring. He's so in touch. He's got a fingertip feel on the pulse. People have got to learn how to take care of themselves. It's like that saying goes, it's up to us. No one's coming for us. It's up to us. If you can't take care of yourself, if you can't for yourself for 72 hours, I honestly, it's like the old Samuel Adams quote, man. We seek neither your counsel nor your arms. If you can't take care of yourself for 72 hours, you need to get your shit together. And I expected more out of Texans. Maybe the people who were, on the news complaining, maybe they weren't Texans. Maybe they were transplants from California because they got a lot of them these days. But I expected a lot more from Texas. So I pulled up some of the, I saw some of the same info you had in talking about the freezing and stuff like that. So the natural gas. Yeah, so like you said, they don't have a lot of storage tanks for natural gas because it's very difficult to store. It's very dangerous to store when you talk about huge, thousands and thousands of gallons of tanks of natural gas. It's generally not something you want to have just sitting around. But so those lines and those pipes that come up out of the ground, well, they're run by pumps. And when there's no electricity for those pumps, guess what you don't get? You don't get the natural gas out of the ground. That's just kind of how it works. It's literally science. And, as a lot of people with wells found out, and we talked about
coal-powered pump.
A coal-powered pump. Hey,
a coal-powered pump.
We used to have trains where you just shovel coal into it, into the engine to make it go, into the first. So it was like the tweet I saw, and I forget who it was from, but they had a picture of this, this is a 21st century looking ship, but it had sails on it. And he's like, we are revolutionizing the way we transport goods across the oceans. And you're just like, anybody want to tell him?
Who's going to tell him?
Columbus just rolled over.
Yeah. But again, like people are like, man, I thought I had a well. I wasn't on city water. Why doesn't it work? Well, your pump's electric. And you don't have to have, a 20 kilowatt generator. You don't have to have all these crazy things. You don't have to have, 3 cows worth of meat in your freezer. But fuck, people. You should at least have 72 hours worth of shit in your house to survive on. Like, good Lord. Anyway.
Told you it was coming.
I don't know, man. Maybe Floridians are different stock because I didn't see a whole lot of people complaining and bitching after Hurricane Andrew or Hurricane Kate, as we did in Texas.
That was a long time
At least
ago.
some people, not all Texas. That's true, man. Kate was in 85, I think, 84, 85. I was a kid. Dude, we didn't have power for almost 2 weeks. You know how hot it fucking was? Not having power for 2 weeks? And Dad, you know what? It's like, Dad, when's the power going to come back on? My dad had just a very small generator, right? That thing was big enough to run the refrigerator and his coffee pot. That was it.
See, there you go.
And it's like, Dad, can we run the air conditioning? Dad's like, nope. He's like, running the refrigerator and my coffee pot. Coffee pots take up a lot of power. And that was it. It was just like, all right, well, this sucks. But never once was it, well, when's the government going to come help us? It was, all right, this is what we got. This is what we're doing. And it is what it is. So anyway, I'll throw it back over to Luke.
We got a special appearance on this one. This podcast kind of came up last minute. We got the infamous Herschel Jericho is gonna. He's an old fogey. He's gonna tell us how it was back in the day when it used to freeze, I guess, or whatever. Roger wants to ask him. I'll kick it to Roger, and Roger can ask him questions. I'm going to transfer the headphones here. Hold on.
So impromptu interview. Well, it is great to have you on the show. I think this is how Luke shirks his responsibility. I will give him, you know what? Kudos to Luke, because he's normally like, oh, I got to get some coffee, or I got to go to the bathroom or whatever. And now he brings in his dad, and it's a good job, Luke. That's one for the ages there. So I guess, I'd like to see, in your experience, because one of the things, and this doesn't just go back to Barry. I mean, I always talk about Barry, and the biggest failure, or the biggest impact that he had on the country was that he took away people's right to fail. And it kind of goes back to what Josh was saying. It was like, hey, the government's not coming to help you, and you shouldn't expect the government to come out and help you. So I guess over your decades of experience and being throughout Texas, have you seen a huge shift going from where I'm the independent, hey, I really have to do this stuff on my own, to, hey, when's the mayor coming to help me out? When's the city bringing the food trucks and water? Or have you seen it kind of stabilize itself?
Well, it's from my point of view, which comes, as Luke said, an old fogey type deal. I mean, kids today, young people today are just, seems like they always have a hand out. Give me a hand with this, give me a hand with that. Something's broken. They don't even think about finding a toolkit and fixing it. They just go see if they can find somebody that can fix it for them. And so the idea of independence just means that they don't have to do what their folks tell them anymore. That's, if they can get away from that, then they can do whatever they want to do. But yeah, this recent storm was really kind of amusing to me, because so many people were just screaming and crying. I mean, just like, this is horrible. Our pipes are frozen. We can't flush our toilets. And oh man, when I grew up out on a farm, and I'm one of these guys that had to walk to school 5 miles both ways, and it's uphill both ways.
There you go.
We did live way out in the country. We were a mile off of any paved highway, and this storm was bad. It was more cold than the storm being a problem, because I had a part-time job driving, and I drove every day during the storm. It wasn't pleasant, but always take it easy. It's okay. But I remember we had a storm one time. It snowed like 17 inches over about an 18-hour, 24-hour period. And it shut down. We lived just south of what's now Interstate 40. It was Highway 66 at the time. And it completely shut it down all the way entirely across the Texas Panhandle. It was shut down. And there were people stranded everywhere. But we were way out on the farm, and we had cattle sometimes 2 miles away that we had to get feed to. And we literally dragged bales of hay for 1.5 miles in the snow, 17 inches of snow, to get feed to those cattle. And it was not pleasant. It was cold. I've never been so cold in all my life, but I knew those cattle were going to die if we didn't get them. You didn't think anything about it. We had to do it. And I'm sure I griped a lot too, but it had to be done. We got it done. And we were trapped out there, I think, for about 10 days before the county maintainers came in and cleared the dirt road off so we could get out. And so this last storm here in Texas, even though it was about as cold as I've ever seen, we got down to 10 below here once. And that's pretty daggum cold. And it was cold during the day. It was just bitter. So I understand, but it's not something you can't survive. And if you got the right kind of attitude, it's going to pass. I mean, you can make your way through it, but so many people were just going crazy. And this wasn't even as bad as a lot of storms that we've had through here. So is that kind of what you were looking for?
No, absolutely. And I love the line, today's idea of being independent is moving out. That's like, yeah, I'm independent. It's like, I don't live with mom and dad anymore. So, that is awesome. And I tell you, it's kind of, I do have the Josh, I think, mentality, some of this stuff where you talk about, so I'm a horrible prepper. I mean, I have a swimming pool, so I'm like, okay, well, I've got 35,000 gallons of water. That's going to work itself out. But I'm kind of like Josh, and most of our military listeners out there were like, we've been through some certain schools. I'm like, okay, 3 days without food, I could probably, my body probably needs 3 days without food. So I'm just kind of like, it's like, I really, I keep some beans and rice and stuff like that, but I really start to, hey, we go about 5 or 6 days, I'll start worrying about food. I'm like, 1, 2, 3 days, man. Yeah, I probably need it. My kids probably need it too. And I'm hungry as I can. Swallow your spit and chew your fingernails, and you'll be all right for at least 24, 48 hours. But as far as yourself, where you're at, well, I guess how hard were you hit? Was your as far as your family? Did you lose power? Did you lose water? All that good stuff, or how bad were you hit?
We didn't lose water ever. We had one little pipe in one of the bathrooms froze up, but I got my little camp stove heater out and thawed it out. And but we lost power for 1 hour, but it was one of those rolling power outages. It was planned. They told everybody it was going to be an hour. But I mean, in some of those little towns outside of Amarillo here they were without power for like 2 or 3 days. And man, I feel for them. That was tough on them. But I mean, it was funny because I drove through those towns, like I said, during all that snow and ice, and everybody was still milling around, going. It was not like they just hole up in their houses waiting for somebody to come and help them. They were out trying to get something done.
Tell them what you were doing driving.
Yeah, I mentioned my part-time job. When my mom died, a guy came and picked her up after she died to take her to the funeral home. And he was so nice, and my wife told me how nice he was, and I told her, I said, I think I could do that. And I was getting ready to retire, and so I just kind of checked around, got in touch with him, and he put me in touch with some other people, and I went to work for for a new mortuary service here in Amarillo. And all I do is transport bodies, from one place to the other. And it's amazing. During all this COVID stuff, it's been bad. And I asked the guy that runs the place, my boss, and he said between September and mid-January, it was triple their normal amount of the stuff they had to do with bringing bodies in, taking bodies out. They have 2 huge walk-in coolers, which were full. They brought in 3 refrigerator trucks, trailer trucks, and parked them in there and had those full, waiting.
Good Lord.
So that they could get people out. I mean, it was kind of hard to imagine, and I was on the road all the time. People don't stop dying. I know my wife gets upset. I'll get a call at 1:30 in the morning. Can you go to Wellington? And can't they wait till morning? And I said, yeah, people are pretty inconsiderate. They just will die just about any time. So, so, I know a lot of people would have trouble with that, and I really understand it, but I really don't. I don't, and of course it's real quiet when I'm driving. I get to listen to you guys on your podcast, so keep up with that pretty good.
So as long as people will continue to keep dying, he can keep driving and listen to our podcast. That's a win.
I'm telling you, this is a business that will always be going. I'm telling you, because and especially my generation is really dying off now. We're the baby boomers, and it's amazing. I see people in that prep room all the time around my age, and I've made peace with the fact I'm going to be one of those people. I'm going to be on that table one of these days. So,
yeah, we all will be.
Yeah, it's, but it's sobering, and I understand how people have a hard time with it, but I just don't. It's, I've hauled as many as 3 people from Amarillo down to Lubbock, and it's 3. I have one funny story that I hope you got time for this. I've only been stopped once, and I was going through a small town down close to Childress, and there was a cop had a guy pulled over, and there was a guy passing me as I was going by. So I just slowed way down, but I didn't have time to slow down a lot. And I went by him without changing lanes, and I couldn't. Boy, he got mad. I could tell he got mad, and he let that guy go he was talking to, turned on his lights and came right after me. So I just pulled over right away, And when we travel, we don't cover up the heads of the people that we're transporting because it mashes the anyway. So this cop stopped me, and he was upset. And I said, listen, I know, I'm really sorry. I said, I could not move. I said, I should have stopped and not came so close to you. But I said, I just wasn't thinking that fast. And he leaned down and looked in there and he saw what I was doing, what I had. He said, well, just don't ever let it happen again. We'll have a nice day. So it was funny. The look on his face completely changed. It was really, I laughed all the way back to Umbrella. That was so funny.
Oh,
I just don't want to die on the shitter, right? Like, be respectable. I'm praying that, like, you know, I just die in my sleep. You know, my dog comes up to lick me in the face in the morning, and Dad just doesn't move. And, you know, they call you and you come pick me up and haul me off. I don't want to, like, have an aneurysm as I'm trying to push one out, and next thing you know, I'm slumped over. And yeah, hey, that's how Roger went. So we'll go, have to haul him off the toilet.
in my sleep.
Yeah, I think we're all that way. You know, I hate the thought of dying in a hospital bed, waiting. You know, I can't take that. I do masters track and field, and I tell everybody that the way I want to go is in the final curve of the 400, leading the pack, and have a heart attack right there, and I'm gone. That's the way I'd love to go.
Oh, man. So you still do that?
Master track?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah. They got it in five year increments, and I'm in the 70, 75, 70, 74 age group now, and I figure if I hang around long enough, all the guys that can beat me will either go crippled or die off, and I can.
Well, you run more than the three of us combined, so that's impressive.
Yeah,
So,
Luke.
Now, I was going to ask what happened to Luke.
Yeah, I don't know. I blame a lot of today's problems with young people on PE teachers, and probably you guys might have experienced this too. Because what do PE teachers do to punish people? They make them run.
Make them run.
So
yep.
People grow up hating what? Hating running.
Hating running.
yeah.
And man, I grew up running all over the farm. I would rather run and chase cattle or, go over and check the fence and stuff like that. I loved running, which I guess that's kind of weird. But
Now that you mention it, yeah, the PE teacher, my baseball coach in high school, whenever you made a mistake or you did something wrong, you had to run foul poles, and left field to right field, back to left field. That was 1, and you had to do 10. So it was right. Got to hate running really, really quick.
Yeah, and most PE teachers nowadays are fat.
Yeah.
So it's
I watch kids today, and I think, good night, I can't believe there's so many overweight kids. It's appalling to me. I mean, and they don't do anything. If you make them do something, mom and dad will say, hey, they got asthma or one thing or another. They got all kinds of excuses for them. And man, my folks came and told me, you better do what they say or else you'll be doing worse at home.
Yeah, for sure. So while we have you, we need to hear at least one good, embarrassing Luke story. Give us one from his childhood, or give us a good one.
There are so many. He was really and truly, he was the cutest little kid. And you don't ever want to get what you pray for. We had 2 little girls. And when Kathy found out she was pregnant, it's back before the days where you could find out before, if you were going to have a boy or a girl. And she was convinced she was going to have a girl. We already had girls' names picked out. And so when she said we're going to have another little blonde-headed girl. So I got to be in with the delivery when he was being born, and when we saw his head, he had dark hair. And I said, well, he doesn't have blonde hair. I was talking to Kathy, and then when he was born, the doctor said it's a boy. Well, man, that's a bad idea. We wanted the boy so bad, so very bad. And I guess the funniest story that comes to mind right now is not really something. I guess it may embarrass Luke, but I remember my wife had no idea about little boys. You know, she'd help raise two little girls, and I remember we were at the hospital and they brought him in one day, and he was laying there beside the bed, all cute and all, and she took off his diaper to, you know, change it, and that squirt just went up right over. I remember she jumped back and said, "Oh, what I do?" is she grabbed the pillow and threw it. I was rolling to the floor. She didn't know what to do about that. Yeah, he did some really cute things growing up. We just kind of stood around and laughed at him, and that's probably why he's like he is now. We laughed at him too much, I think. He used to tell us not to laugh to him because we just laughed at him all the time, and he loves to cook now.
We can tell.
I hate it. I think more than 3 minutes in a microwave is too much cooking. You know, I don't like that. But he used to beg his mom to hold him up there while she was cooking because he wanted to see the cooking. He wanted to watch that being done, and he still really likes doing it. And he's a good cook. I always gain a lot of weight.
He's always been a chow hound. For sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, well, you've done a fine job raising him, so it's and we'll say positive things because you're here, and then we'll talk crap about him once you actually leave.
Well,
but, no, you've done a fine job, and one day when we all meet, we'll have to give you some of the Army stories about Luke, and you'll see the other side of him.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can't imagine what those are like. It's been good talking to you guys, being with you. I really enjoy y'all's broadcasts. Those podcasts are great. I mean,
very humble.
I laugh so much. I have to pull over at times. I'm laughing so hard. It's crazy. You guys are
well,
really
we appreciate it. Yeah, we definitely appreciate it. We definitely appreciate you listening. And my at least for me myself, we try to tone down the language a little bit because we know you're listening, and my mom's listening, and my dad's listening too, and we've gotten all the same comments by. Y'all take the language down a notch or two, so we're trying.
Yeah, good. Thanks, guys.
But I will say that you already are a greater contributor to the show than Luke has been over the last 3 or 4 episodes. So that's I don't know, man. We might have to bring him back on. We'll give him like a 90-second trial, and if he didn't cut it, we'll just bring you back on and you can fill in for him. But it was it was great actually having him, and it's great to see with. Believe it or not, we all have here at C3, we all have moms and dads, and you meet the individuals that help raise us, and with the, I guess, sometimes dark, gloomy sense of humor or whatever attitudes, personalities we have, you see where a lot of that comes from. But I think now that your dad's gone, I mean, you've fallen way off wherever that tree was planted, Luke. So I don't know what the hell happened there, but
No, I was gonna tell your dad, Roger. Roger got it, man. Your mom and dad definitely they raised a hell of a man. I was trying to say it before you got your headphones back on because I didn't want you to hear that because now your head's gonna get all big and shit.
7 3/8. I think it's 7 5/8. 7 5/8. That's a big noggin, man. That's a big grape.
That's true. I was gonna tell your dad. I was going to tell your dad. I was like, when Roger said we'll tell him some of the Army stories, I was like, yeah, I'll tell you about the time Luke and I almost fought each other at the party. over completely a misunderstanding, like just go a 100% misunderstanding.
Now, did you go take a dump or something? Is that what you did? You put your dad on the podcast, so you go take a dump?
And we had to. But I should have known the first thing he'd say is kids these days. Man, I bet Moses back in the day.
No, he did bring up a valid point, though, because when I look back at my childhood, because I moved all over as a military brat, And part of my years I spent up in Roanoke, Virginia, and we lived up in the mountains. And when it snowed, man, I mean, you didn't go anywhere. So you better like legitimately have a deep freezer. I remember the guy coming around during the summertime, and it's funny because he always came around. My dad was gone; it was just my mom home. But he would deliver like steaks, orange juice, pies or whatever, and you'd load them all up in the deep freezer. And when it snow came, you'd be locked down for a good 2 weeks or whatever, and that's what you ate, and that's what you drank or whatever. So I remember though, being a kid, it was like, yay, snow day. I mean, that's just what it was. You went out and you played and you came in, you ate some soup and this and that. It's like nowadays, man, and I get it, it's Texas, but nowadays you have something like that and you don't hear about snow days, kids going out and having fun and this and that. It immediately goes to disaster. It immediately goes to emergency.
But that's the thing, though, and it's society. It's the society that we live in these days. And like I said before, like growing up in North Florida, man, you got hurricanes. That was our thing. California gets earthquakes. Florida gets hurricanes, and the East Coast gets hurricanes. But the other part of it, when like when the dishwasher broke or when something at the house broke, we didn't have a lot of money. So there was no, well, we'll wait for somebody to come fix it. It was, we can't because we don't have money to pay somebody to come fix it. So you got to learn that shit yourself. And there was a lot of things, that dad knew how to fix anything. Like it might not be cosmetically. I was going to say cosmetically, it might not be pretty, but it was functional. Right. And so, but dude, it was just, a lot of that was because you just didn't have the money to pay somebody to come fix it, So we came home. Nicole and I came home from work a couple days ago, and dude, water all over the kitchen floor. Right, our dishwasher, put all the water over the kitchen floor, and it was like, yeah, you know what? We do have the means to pay somebody to come fix it, but I'm not going to have somebody come fix the dishwasher. Right? I can figure we are semi-intelligent individuals. She's a lot smarter than me, so it was like, all right, just take this, take the dishwasher apart and figure out what's wrong with it. And, we figured it out. We put it back together. And for once, I put something back together and didn't have parts left over. And it was good.
Hey, these are extra. No, and you know what? And I think your kids learn from that because one of the earliest memories I have, the earliest one I have is my dad buying me a Tandy TRS-80. And back in those days, if you wanted to play a computer game or whatever, you had this big, thick book. And it was the basic coding language. And you had to go code your game. So if you did it, but I think the earliest memory I have, and I think this, a lot of the stuff that I do today comes from that. We had a VCR, and this was back when VCRs were $300-$400. You only had one, right? And we couldn't even afford like the Beta Max or whatever. We can only have like the standard VHS. And I remember it broke one day, just like didn't work, and I was like, wow, the world was ending, right? Because I couldn't watch whatever the hell I was watching on VHS back then. And I remember watching my dad, like you said, he's like, hey, you didn't necessarily have the money or disposable income to fix it. And I sat there and I watched him take it apart. And, one of the belts broke. And he's like, you know what'll fit this? And went out and brought a rubber band and stuck it around the two little pulleys. Like, boom, there we go. Fired that thing back up. And I think it worked like another decade. I mean, I think we literally had the VCR until like we actually got rid of VHS tapes. But it goes back, that's a small piece, but it goes back to, like what your father was saying and what you're saying, I think what all of us are saying is there is no more, hey, some personal responsibility and, hey, you can either lay in the corner and keep, continue to keep, getting beat on, or you get up and you go do something, right? You either lay there and die or you get up and move. And that's, something I think they shifted over the last couple of generations. Luke, I think one thing that your dad, he had a great segue into this, great transitions. I'll throw it to you after this. Talking about COVID and then, talking about disasters. Right now, the biggest disaster across the country, and you wouldn't know this by listening to Hollywood and the left elitists, Cuomo, man, what has happened to this guy? I mean, this guy is like, he has literally gone from Tiger Woods, no burner phone, golf club to the head, now I'm down $500 million to post. I mean, this guy went from receiving an Emmy, right, for like what, a month ago, 2 months ago or whatever, for, all of his, hard television work and the fight against COVID. And remember, President Biden said he was the golden standard for governors across the country in his fight for COVID. So now you look, he's got two major scandals right now going on. The first one being the nursing home deaths, which you're finally starting to see. Even Dems are saying, hey, maybe this guy needs to be recalled. Hey, we need the data. We need the information because it looks like this guy purposely put Gam Gam back in the nursing home with COVID to kill other elderly. And then you've also got the Cuomo sex assault scandal. So it's a two-part question. Where do you think the nursing home scandals go, the deaths? And then how about the sexual assault scandal? I mean, where's the left on this, right? It's the hashtag Me Too. We believe, I believe, we believe unless it's Tara Reid. We believe unless it's a Democrat. We believe unless it's Joe Biden. We believe unless Cuomo. I mean, where's the outrage from the left?
Well, I don't know where the nursing home death thing goes from here. You're right, man. He sure has fallen out of favor very quickly. It makes me wonder, why is this? Why are they not running more interference for him? What did he do? What did he say? Did he say something to the wrong person about possibly running against Kamala Harris in 2024? I don't know, man. Who knows? But he has definitely fallen out of favor. He might be. I don't know. I tend to ask myself, why is this happening? And he might be the lightning rod for COVID mismanagement across the board and on a number of levels. And, when people start asking questions in other states, maybe Cuomo's just the lightning rod and the, he's the guy they're going to throw under the bus. I don't see it going away. I guess it could. But then you look at the news cycle, and I haven't been watching too much news since I've been on vacation, I guess you could call it. But I did this morning, watching some local news. They were talking about the Cuomo thing with sexual assault, not necessarily the nursing home scandal. Now that the Texas natural disaster has gone away, there's more focus on Cuomo and the mismanagement and the sexual assault or harassment. I don't know if it's assault or harassment. The only thing I've seen, Roger texted me the other day. And I had no idea what he was talking about because I've been so out of the loop. I can't use my phone unless I'm connected to Wi-Fi. When you're driving a long ways, it's nice to be away from the news sometimes. But Roger texted me and he said, so you can't even ask anyone to play strip poker anymore? And I was like, where is this coming from? I don't know. And I stopped somewhere, some Dairy Queen in the middle of nowhere had Wi-Fi. And I was like, oh, okay, now I see. And yeah, I mean, everyone's playing by a whole different set of rules nowadays, right or wrong. It's a whole different world, a whole different set of rules. And I think I replied back to, well, according to them, no, you can't ask somebody if they want to play strip poker. And Roger came back and said, so how do you play strip poker then? Does everyone just Vulcan mind meld and decide at the same time that we're going to play strip poker? It's a whole different set of rules. And this goes back to me wondering why the media isn't running interference on this somehow, because, man, I mean, one lady who supported, one woman who supported, came out and publicly supported the woman who accused Cuomo of this. She came on and said, yes, I believe it. Cuomo's a bad guy. She herself had filed a sexual harassment claim against some New York councilman or something. He ended up having to resign a few years ago. I mean, boy, if you're a male or a female, but more specifically a male in today's workforce, the boomer generation, like Herschel Jericho, you just listened to there, and not that he would ever, be so crass, but you are playing by a totally different set of rules than you were even in the year 2000. I mean, you really have to watch your step, and you're going to see more and more and more and more of these kind of allegations, right or wrong. Again, right or wrong. Men should watch what they say in the workplace for sure. If you're the governor or if you're in political office anywhere or any office anywhere, you probably shouldn't be asking people in the office itself if they want to play strip poker. It's probably not a good idea. But I want to say that Cuomo is not going to survive this. I think he might survive his term, but the more interesting question to me, and hopefully Josh will remember to cover this, is will Ted Cruz survive his trip to Cancun? I tend to say yes, he probably will, but I hope I answered Roger's question to a point. Maybe Josh can answer that, can address it also with Cuomo. But Ted Cruz, You know, I see conservatives trying to defend it or say it's not a big deal, whatever. Okay, what could he have done? So on and so forth. Okay, whatever. But that was a horrible, horrible optic. Whoever is his chief of staff, he should be fired immediately. And the only reason that person shouldn't be fired is if Ted Cruz didn't tell that person he was going to Cancun. It was just stupid. He shouldn't have done it. Does that make him a bad person or a bad politician? Well, it might make him a bad politician. I don't necessarily think it makes him a bad person. That's just me. But that was a horrible optic, and I don't know what the hell he was thinking. So, Josh, what do you think about Cuomo?
Yeah, I'll hit on Cuomo first. I think it was a number of people.
No. I can't let that slip. You're going to hit on Cuomo? You're going to hit on Cuomo. Dude, what were we just talking about?
I'm going to hit on Cuomo. Wow.
Not in the workplace.
The cancel culture is coming from me. They're coming for me for a lot of other reasons, not because I said I'm going to hit on Cuomo. So I think it was a number of people who told us during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings that it was hashtag, believe her. So we have to believe, whoever, unless it was, Biden, that we don't have to believe her, even though Kamala Harris said during the vice presidential debates during the primary debates that she believed Biden's accusers. And then everybody was, Alyssa Milano and all these clowns came out during Kavanaugh and said, you have to believe the women. You have to. It's, you don't have a choice. You have to. But now that, it's embroiled Cuomo, and I think you have the best explanation for it, Luke. He did something to anger the establishment. And he has now angered the establishment, and they're going to hang him out to dry. Does he survive this term? Sure. Will he get elected again? I don't know. Because, man, the cancel culture is quick. It depends, and I don't know when he's up again, to run for office. That plays a lot into it as well, with the memory of the general public that we talked about earlier. So there was a video that also came out of Cuomo. I think he was saying that, or he said something else that you saw it and you were like, dude, that's not good. Like you're on video saying that. But then again, the left has, if they didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. So who knows, man? That guy may get elected again and go back in office, and it may just go away. I don't know that the nursing home thing's going to go away though, because there are a lot of people. You're not talking about comments or things that can be, well, it was taken out of context, whatever. Like he killed a lot of people's gam. So I don't know that he survives on that. As far as Cruz, like I said, growing up, we hurricanes, we go without power for anywhere between 3 days and like almost 2 weeks. And so did I, again, I was a kid, but I never heard my dad say, where the hell are our elected officials? So, I didn't need Governor Childs or, anybody there handing out bottled water at a place we didn't go to anyway. Cause, but I agree, man. It was a terrible optic, dude. You had to know that shit was going to get out. You had to know that was going to happen, dude. People recognize you. They see Eddie Munster walking through the airport. Dude, you're going to get recognized, especially with your big Texas flag, mask on, or your Molam Lay flag, mask on. Dude, you're going to get recognized. It was a terrible optic. It was terrible. And then he lied about it. I'm telling you right now, Ted Cruz lied about it when he was like, well, I was just taking my daughters, on a vacation with their friends. And then did you guys see the text messages for his little neighborhood text group that he's on, that his wife is on with all their neighbors? Oh yeah. No, dude, it was, hey, the power's out. This really sucks. Why don't we all go to Cancun? And so it was just like, Ted, what are you doing? It was just like, come on, man. It was one of those things. You had to know that shit was going to get out. They probably, whoever released those text messages, they got paid a lot of money by some tabloid or, you know, some media outlet. And it was, all right. You know, it was just, come on, man. You had to know that was going to be a bad optic. You had to know that. And I 100% agree with Luke, man. Whoever your chief of staff was, if they knew about that and they were like, yeah, it's good, just go, we got it, you should fire that dude immediately. Or that dudette. Whatever. Dude, it was a terrible optic, man. Come on. I got no excuse for Cruz, dude. Does he survive it? Yeah, he'll survive it. Because I don't know of anybody that could really mount a good challenge to Ted Cruz there in Texas, you know, in the next election.
Beto?
Yeah.
Beto?
No, I don't. Beto? You know, I don't even think Beto. Not this election cycle. Give it 6 years and probably, but not this election cycle. I think Ted's still safe for, you know, one more or two, maybe two more. I don't know.
Well, he's not up for re-election for what, another 4 years or whatever, right?
Yeah, he might be. I don't know. I don't keep track of when old Eddie Munster's coming up for his next go round.
And I tell you, and I agree with you. I think with Ted Cruz, the citizen, fuck yeah, man, let's go to Cancun, because I would do the same thing, right? But Ted Cruz, the politician's got it. Come on, dude. I mean, there's just, and especially when he came out in the way he criticized the teachers in Puerto Rico and all that other stuff. But he will get over it because he's at CPAC, and at CPAC today he said Orlando is beautiful, not as beautiful as Cancun, though. So,
I saw that, dude. That was brilliant. Yes. He knows it, and he goes ahead. He mocks himself, and that alleviates all the criticism.
Yep. And the American public is very forgiving right now. You know, I think Dana Perino was saying this, that, or maybe it was Harris Faulkner, that, you know, especially when you look over the last several years, the American public is extremely forgiving. So you come out and you own up to your mistakes, and yeah, you know, you go a couple news cycles, everything's just going to pass by and blow over. What the going back to Cuomo and the COVID thing. So, you know, we've all heard about listen to the science and this and that. And this is actually pretty interesting. So I think the science has played itself out. So have you guys seen the COVID numbers between Florida and New York? So, I mean, we already knew that most of these people are morons in the government workspace that are coming out with all these mandates and this and that. So Florida, population of 21.7 million people, 76,000 people hospitalized due to COVID, 28,800 deaths. Right. It's a lot of deaths. I mean, it is what it is. We know that Florida's been open the majority of the year. I think they probably shut down for like 2 weeks. And I think it was just some of the beaches. And then they finally said, screw it. They've been opened up. The weather's good. People are out and about. I would say that they're, as far as the proximity of people and people congregating, it's a much higher density than what you would see in the state of New York. Just based on the weather itself, right? There's probably a higher density of people in any given particular part of the state. You look at New York, a population of 19.4 million, it's 2 million less, 90,000 hospitalizations, so 14,000 more, 37,000 deaths. So almost 4,000 more deaths for a state that has been locked down for an entire year. That is in my opinion, that is an apples to apples comparison. You're going to see a spike. When you look at Arizona right now, I didn't check them today, but Arizona's backside numbers are on a sharp decline. There's going to be a little bit of a spike because you do have a vulnerable population out there that when they become exposed, they're going to get sick. And, you know, the reality is those are the folks that, regardless of what it is, and we've said it before, whether it's COVID, whether it's the flu, whether there's a mandate to stay at home, wear a mask, whatever, those are the folks that need to take the extra precautions anyway. So you see this initial surge of hospitalizations, you see it of deaths and this and that, and those were vulnerable that were going to be sick anyway. But then after that, it kind of settles itself down because the mortality rate just isn't there, the fertility rate just isn't there, and then you start to realize that, wow, if I've got a state that's got 2 million more people, but 4,000 less deaths, that's been essentially completely open for the last year compared to New York, that to me is a no-brainer. Here's something else that goes, and this goes to Luke's point that he's been saying for a year now, over a year with COVID. to give them some more credit, because the true death, the true impact of COVID isn't going to be the COVID deaths. It's going to be all the other things that are associated with it. So they just had the Drug Screening Compliance Institute. Don't ask me why I had to look at that, but we actually went through a thing this week. So they were talking about COVID numbers and as far as drug usage. And again, I'm not a drug user, so, I had to educate some other folks with it, but check this stuff out. And this was reported by Newsweek. Alcoholic beverages, the sales spiked by 55% March 21st, 2020. That week, it surged 55%. Hard liquor sales increased by 75% year over year. That is almost double, as Josh holds up his old Forester. Okay, 75%. Beer sales were up 66%. Wine sales were up 42%. This is year over year. Okay, as I'm reading this, I need to go find some of these companies and invest in their stock because earnings are going to be up. And they say no matter what it is, it's what alcohol and alcohol, gambling, and bullets. That's what always goes up, and tobacco. Now, aside of the legal things, when you look at mid-March to May, fentanyl, non-prescribed, increased abuse by 32%. Methamphetamine, 20%. Cocaine, 10%. The industry who has the highest percentage of people that drink during the workday, advertising and marketing, almost 50%. That means every other person in the advertising and marketing, that industry that every other person is drinking during the duty. Now, again, it doesn't say if it's a beer or whatever. I guess with us growing up in the military, it was like, hey, you just don't drink during the duty day. I mean, you don't do that. But every other person is drinking during the duty day. I think it says, nearly 42% of professional teleworkers admitted drinking during working hours. And so that goes back to, what Luke was saying is I think you're going to find that not this year, not next year, but when you look at 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road, I think that's really where you're going to find the impact of COVID. And it's not going to be the COVID-related sickness. It's not going to be the COVID-related deaths. It's going to be health side effects, drug dependence. And I think you can even probably go back. It's kind of like rings on a tree, man. You can look at rings on a tree and you find the droughts and, the years that were, we had floods and, normal years and that. And you're going to see that in our kids because you're going to have this band of kids that are probably obese, probably coming from broken homes, poor nutrition or whatever. So I would say, and that might last 3, 4, 5 years. And of course, if you go with Fauci, it's going to last for the next 10 years, right?
Yeah, dude. So I was reading, it was earlier this week. I'll say this and then I'll throw it over to Luke because you're absolutely right. So when we first started talking about this, Luke was the first one out of the three of us to bring this up, and the impacts of it was you go back and you look. So you look up at it's in the Census Bureau and it's also in the National Institute of Medicine. From January to reading this, it's like March of 2019, 11% of adults reported having issues with anxiety and depression. They polled again in January of 2021, 41% of adults polled reported having issues of anxiety and depression. And man, it's this dude. It's COVID, man. It is COVID. It is the fear-mongering of the media. It is the fear-mongering of Fauci. It is the fear-mongering that, it's like, oh, everybody's dying. It was like, like we talked about it, in Phoenix, they're having to bring in additional refrigerator trucks, and it was like, well, that was just part of the their normal procedures when they institute this measure. That's just part of it that comes along with it, right? You get the whole package. You don't get to pick and choose,
right?
And we have not seen the effects of COVID, and we won't see the true effects of COVID and everything that's happened for I would guess another probably 10, 15 years. really, until we know the true numbers of everything that's happened. And a lot of this, you go back and look, like you compare New York and Florida. You go back and look at how many people died in the United States in 2019 total, not from whatever, just total. It's about the same number of people who died in the United States in 2020.
It's like 2 million, right? It's like 2.1 million, give or take, or something like that.
Yeah, there's not that much difference. So the same amount of people are going to die every year as they did with, people were like, oh, so many people died in 2020. No, about the same. I saw a report today, WCTV out of Tallahassee, Florida, super far left news outlet, reported it. They were like, only 3 people have died from the flu this year. It's amazing. And you're like, really? It's like, you guys act like there's people out here who believe this shit. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. I'll push it over to Luke. But.
Any way you look at the flu thing, any way you look at that, it's not good. It's not good news. Because if there are continued flu deaths, that means that the numbers aren't being reported accurately. We've covered this ad nauseum. I mean, the CDC, they took this metric off their website months ago, but they were lumping in flu deaths with COVID-19 deaths. And the way they were doing the numbers was kind of strange, but it kind of made sense the way they were doing it from an epidemiological standpoint. But let's just say for a second, if you buy the fact that there are no flu deaths, and let's just say, well, I can explain this. I'm a nurse, and the reason there are less flu deaths this year is because people are wearing masks and people are staying inside and they're social distancing, and COVID is way more contagious than the flus, but so the flu has gone down. Well, that is bad news. That is bad news. When the flu takes a break for a year or two, that is not good news, folks. Yeah. The way viruses work is if they're trying hard to survive, they're going to get stronger. I mean, that's boiling it down, making it very simple. But we're looking at some really tough flu seasons coming up, and I don't see the masks going away anytime soon. But whatever with COVID, Josh and Roger are blowing sunshine up my fourth point of contact. I was just the first one to say it. All 3 of us were thinking the same thing. We talked about it offline. I mean, the mental aspect of it is going to be tough. We're going to see, I agree. I think it's going to be 10, 15 years, maybe even 20 before the real toll is really seen and talked about in a realistic fashion. And by that time, everyone will long have forgotten about the Trump politics and how Biden saved the day. And we'll have an honest conversation about what it cost, what it really cost. And, I was talking to, shout out to Scott. I went to see him in Norman, and we had a really frank conversation about, how it affected both of us on a personal and mental level, being locked down. And, I was affected. I continue to be affected because, our lives are being turned upside down. Like Roger said a few episodes, I don't like it when the government tells me when I can go out, what places I can go, what I can wear, how, on and on. It's very frustrating. And, you seek outlets to that. And, everybody deals with it their own way. And I like to think that I've made some pretty strong, I have some mental fortitude. But, I was like, man, I got to get out of this house, because we were locked down pretty tight, man. You go to the grocery store and the gas station, that was it. You couldn't leave the city, so on and so forth, over there in Europe. But one of the ways I dealt with it, and maybe this is messed up, maybe it's the Army background. Scott kind of said the same thing. He was talking about basic training. I was talking about COVID. But when I watch somebody starting to break down, I know it's bad, but I almost need other people to start breaking down. And that gives me strength. It's like, dude, I'm not gonna break down like that. I'm stronger than that. And Scott replied, said that about basic training. He's going through it, and he's like, if that dude can make it through, I can too. But I'm tired of talking about COVID. What I want to talk about is Joe Biden bombing Syria now. Maybe we can kick that to Roger in a second. But the 3 headlines I'll read. New York Times: with strikes in Syria, Biden confronts Iran's militant network. When Trump did that was bad. New York Post: U.S. launches first airstrike under Biden against Iran-backed targets in Syria. that makes me wonder about why exactly we removed the Houthi rebels from the terror list. And here's a good one from the Jacobin magazine. And Jacobin is a far, far left. I mean, they're straight communist publication. In fact, they're the biggest one. They're the biggest far left publication where they come out and admit, yeah, we're far left, get over it. Their headline is kind of what Josh said at the beginning. The Biden administration bombed Syria before raising the minimum wage. So what did we say about both sides turning on Biden? Jacobin, that's a sign of things to come, man. Biden's going to keep bombing. He's going to keep doing these things, and he will go down as the least popular, most hated president. Maybe not most hated, but definitely the least popular in modern history. But Roger, you give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to bombing Syria?
Hey, bomb the shit out of them, man. I agree with the action. I don't mind the action at all. You bomb the shit out of them. You had what happened in Erbil, and there's obviously, the retaliation. Is it commensurate with the aggression when you looked at Trump, going after Soleimani and schwacking that dude, so I applaud the action. So I totally agree with the action. The issue comes down to what you just said. Anything Trump did was bad. Biden does it as good. But here's the other thing, too. He's not even getting a lot of press or coverage on it. I mean, like, even on Fox News, right, that, the right side news, they just kind of glossed over it a little bit. They made some notices that, hey, the media is not really covering them and this and that. And they talked about it for about a minute or two, and they just kind of glossed over it. And it seems to me, and maybe you guys have, because we've all got things going on in our lives, and Josh has probably over the last couple of weeks probably been more in tune with that type of stuff than myself or Luke, especially with Luke traveling. But it just seems like a whole lot of nothing out of the Biden administration over the last week or two. I mean, there's almost like, is the dude still the president? Is he still there? You don't even see him. Jen Psaki, I mean, that girl's just a damn laughing stock. But it's like, you don't hear anything good. You don't hear anything bad. I think I should say this. I think you start to hear some grumblings. Right, you hear about the unemployment rate. Now all of a sudden, inflation's a big deal. The $1.9 trillion spending, COVID relief that's going to happen over the next 10 years. That takes our, national debt up to $30 trillion. So you start to hear some grumblings where like people on the left aren't happy. But it's like, at least with Trump, people were fired up and they were opinionated. They came out and it's like Biden, man, he's just like, it's just quiet. I mean, I don't know, Josh, are you seeing that different? It just seems like it's there's just no coverage on anything that's of all the things that are going on in the world, because you've got everything from, John Kerry with the Iran policy that if we have time, we can get to that. But, and the bombings and this and that and COVID and the market and unemployment, yada, yada, yada. There's just not a whole lot of news coming out of the Biden administration.
No, you're not seeing it wrong. Again, like I said before, Jen Psaki she's like the student who's given a book review on a book she didn't read. She's trying to wing it and she's failing miserably. And I forget, somebody tweeted that. Somebody said that. That's not mine, so I can't take credit for it. But it's true. You're just not seeing it. And on the whole like bombing Syria thing, hey, you know what? I'm good with freeing the shit out of most terrorists. We're gonna do that. What I hate though is like you guys brought up, is the hypocrisy of it. So David French, he's a political commentator. He's been on all the the left leaning news networks and everything. So he tweeted back in April 2018 when Trump bombed the shit out of Trump bombed Syria. He was like, yeah, let's do it. He tweeted, and I quote, "If Trump strikes Syria again without congressional approval, his Syrian policy will be both imprudent and unconstitutional." All right. So that was in April 2018. February 2021, his tweet, and I'll quote, "Good. Targeting our troops should carry a consequence." It's like, what gives, man? And he also, his tweet when we killed Soleimani, when Trump authorized the strike that killed Soleimani, He denounced Trump. He's like, this guy, basically this guy's going to get us into a war. This is irresponsible. This should, they should 25th Amendment Trump. Everything. It's like, dude, Soleimani was directly responsible for over 600 American soldiers' deaths in Iraq. And it's just, it's a double standard. If it wasn't for double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. It's just absolutely, it is absolutely insane. As far as bombing Syria, I don't give a shit, dude. Bomb the shit out of Syria. What I saw on, as far as like things coming out of the administration, people are going to turn. People are going to turn on. I don't know if you guys saw now. Guess what's not in the next, was not in the next COVID relief bill, and now saying, now saying, I don't think it's going to get done.
Parliamentary hearing, right?
Yes, dude. He's like, yeah, $15 minimum wage isn't going to be in the next relief bill. People are starting to lose their shit. They're like, no, you campaigned on this. You campaigned on this, and now you're not going to do it. Love, hate, agnostic, whatever on Trump. What Trump campaigned on, Trump did. That was the thing. And, people now are like, nah, man, you campaigned on this. You got to follow through. But he knows what it would do to the economy. He knows, that it would be extremely unpopular. He's just not going to do it. So you're not going to get your $15 an hour minimum wage. I saw today Costco said they're raising all of their minimum wage to $18 an hour. Right? And that's fine. I have zero problem with companies making that decision on their own, saying, hey, we're going to make our minimum wage that we pay our workers $18 an hour. That's fine. I have no problem with that. I laud that. That's fine. But to come out and say, for the federal government, kind of like you, I have this problem with authority. I always have. And, both of you guys know this. As soon as you tell, I might do something on my own, but as soon as you tell me I have to do it, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it just based on principle. Unfortunately, I have three kids who inherited that from me, and it drives me crazy. Sometimes, but in fact, the wife told me the other day, she was like, oh, really? They were going to do it, but then you told them to do it. Now they don't want to do it. I wonder where they got that from. Yeah. And so I was like, I get it. All right. But yeah, there's just not a whole lot coming out from the Biden administration, man. There's just not a whole lot coming out from him. Jim Psaki, I don't recall. I don't even think the press secretaries for Barry were this bad.
No, he had legit press secretaries.
Yeah. I mean, even those guys could dance around. They could answer questions, and not seem like Psaki is just continually like, I don't know. I'll circle back to you. I'll circle back to you. It's not good, man. It's not good. And what are you guys thinking? And I'll throw it to Luca with this question. Did you see a lot of the Democrats are coming out and saying now that Biden shouldn't be, he shouldn't be the sole proprietor of the nuclear codes?
Yep.
No. Who's saying that? Like,
you didn't see that?
No.
Dude, there was a number of Democrats in Congress have come out and said that the nuclear codes should not rest solely with Biden. That should be shared, or a shared responsibility.
Are they saying with the president or with Biden? Because we had this discussion under Trump.
With Biden.
Ooh, well, at least they're being consistent. I don't know who were the personalities that said that, but I imagine they were probably the same ones that said something similar about Trump. The Trump is not fit. He's a little spoiled brat, and he shouldn't have sole proprietorship over the nuclear codes. I remember that discussion, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't Republicans saying that. So it's probably the same people, but that could be the clarion call or the first signs of a push for 25th Amendment. I don't know, but yeah,
31 members. 31 Democratic members of the House.
Yeah. So it's Jimmy Panetta, Ted Lieu, Yeah, 31 members of the House: Jeffrey Lewis, James Martin. Yeah, there's enough. 31 Democrats in the House are saying that he shouldn't be the sole, have the codes.
Okay. So I'm going to pose a question to Roger, so Roger can explain to the audience who doesn't quite understand the nuclear triad and actual nuclear warfare. Roger, why is it a bad idea or a good idea for the nuclear codes to reside in, like, let's say that, I don't know what their plan would be, but let's just say the president has the codes, so does Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, whoever that is. The president, the Speaker of the House, Senate, we'll just say Senate Majority Leader maybe, and let's leave it at those three, and then do a wild card and say the senior justice in the Supreme Court. So you have four people who have to authorize a nuclear strike, or four entities that have to authorize a nuclear strike. Now you can make those four entities whoever you want. Maybe it's the Joint Chiefs, chairman. I don't know, but tell everyone why that's a good or a bad idea.
I mean, it's real easy. So, did you guys get your new stimulus check yet? Right? I mean, that's the thing, is you'll never get everybody to agree on it. And I don't care if it's 3 people, 10 people, 15 people, whatever, you will never get the agreements. And I tell you, when you look at, well, one, here's the thing. The reality is there's only one commander in chief. Like them, love them, hate them, I don't care, whatever. There's only one commander in chief. So there's only one person at the top of the military chain of command. And that is a civilian. My problem is the number one, you'll never get everybody to vote out, because you've got some people out there that are just they're globalists, they're socialists, they'll just never pull the trigger, right? Never push the button. The other piece is, I don't know that I want, well, I know for a fact that I don't want any part of your SLBMs, ICBMs, bombers, any of the nuclear delivery devices to be out of military control. Because you got to remember, the members of Congress, I don't care who you pick, Senate, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care if they're Republicans or Democrats. Okay. They do not hold the office of the commander in chief, and they have no legal tasking authority over the United States military. So when you take a military weapon and you put it in the hands of civilians, I don't like that. I don't like them having that capability, because they don't hold that position, right? They don't have that responsibility. Luke's talking about it's about accountability. I mean, yeah, it's all of the above. It's a military item of war, right, that we use, and hopefully we never have to use it again. But hell, if you're going to use it once, you might as well use it twice. Free them again. So it's, I think when you look at it, at taking that out of the military chain of command and moving it over to the civilian structure, it's all bad. It's all wrong. And it's, I think that you hit something on the head there with, do you start to see grumblings of the 25th Amendment? Because I think we all see, or we all saw that the 25th Amendment, when Pelosi brought that up, that wasn't for Trump. Okay, we talked about being prophetic with, preppers and this and that. Hey, here's another prophecy. That whole 25th Amendment thing, and we've said it a couple episodes, that wasn't for Trump. That was for Biden. So, I know Josh is still in the community. He does this type of stuff. I mean, how do you see it? I mean, with the, one, do you see it going anywhere? I haven't even heard any type of response from the administration. Again, just like everything, they're just like, I don't even know if they're there anymore. They just don't even answer to it. But I mean, do you think that it goes anywhere? And do you think that it should go to those gals?
No, 100%. It should not go. Again, and we've talked about it before. There's a commander in chief, and it's, hey, I didn't like the outcome of the election, but it is what it is. And at the end of the day, Joe Biden is the president of the United States. He is the commander in chief. He is in charge of the military. Right. And I don't think, until there is a constitutional process that is implemented and approved, right? And those will say the 25th Amendment. If the 25th Amendment is implemented and the votes are in Congress and it works and it goes through and they say, yep, Joe Biden is not mentally capable to be president and he is removed, I'll support it. I would, Even with Trump, if they were to 25th Amendment Trump, I may not like it, but I'll support it. As long as it's constitutional, as long as we remain within the intent of the Constitution, I will support it. So, do I think it should go to, do I think the nuclear code should be given to the other clowns? Absolutely not. 100% absolutely not. Do I see that happening? No. I don't see that going anywhere. I 100% agree that when Pelosi brought up the 25th Amendment when Trump was in office, that wasn't for Trump. That was a dry run. That was 100% a dry run. Hey, we need to work out the kinks so when we do under Biden, we are a first time go at that station. That's what that was. They were knocking the rust off. We're a first time go. There's no issues. That was it. Now I don't think that it'll go anywhere, and I damn sure doesn't think it should go anywhere. Again, just like I don't think that generals should be appointed the Secretary of Defense no matter how long they've been retired. The Secretary of Defense should be a straight civilian. I didn't agree with Mattis being appointed Secretary of Defense. At the time, I liked General Mattis. I think he would have made a better Secretary of State, given his preponderance to, want to build allies and, build an alliance and stuff. I think he would have been a better Secretary of State than he was Secretary of Defense. But again, at the end of the day, the Commander-in-Chief is the Commander-in-Chief. He owns the nuclear codes, the nuclear triad, like Luke spoke about. That's the way it works. That's the way it should work. And we should not change that shit because nuclear war, I mean, that, we talk about the nuclear option. That's always like, that's not even the third option. Like that's like the 10th option, right? We should not fuck around with that. And I apologize to Luke's dad and my mom and my dad for that. But dude, when it comes to nuclear, man, God bless, we should not screw with that. Like that. Ooh, yes, we need to keep the tightest of the reins on that thing. So.
I don't think people understand how serious that game really is. I think there's a lot of stuff about nuclear warfare that your average person doesn't truly understand. A lot of aspects of it, and like I was typing while Roger was talking. Accountability is not just accountability of the weapons themselves, but accountability for using them. It's a big responsibility. Maybe we'll do a sip from the cup one of these days, and I'll give a little history lesson, 15, 20 minutes about nuclear warfare from the beginning to now, because I do a lot of research on that stuff. I find it fascinating. But before I kick it to Roger, I want to give a shout out real quick. I was driving from Dallas, Texas to Amarillo, Texas on Highway 287. You pass through a small town called Childress, Texas. I've been there forever, and we stopped at a place. I'm actually related to this guy. It's the first time I ever met him in my life. He's like a second cousin or something like that. But he has a shop. If you're ever on Highway 287, some people might remember this place. It's called Daddy's. DADDY''S. And this place is awesome. We stopped there. My mom talked us into stopping and meeting Kevin. His name's Kevin Hackler. And he owns Daddy's. And we got a burger there. But I got his business card right here. The front of the business card says Daddy's. Wheels, deals, and meals. Okay, this shop was freaking awesome. It's in a big shop, and they sell tires. They do automotive work. They sell chicken, like fried chicken, Cajun style, burgers, and guns. And on the back of the card, it says buy, sell, or trade. And I'm like, so can I go in and trade some chicken for a gun? Like if I have a couple thousand pounds of beef, could I maybe get a gun for that? No, but it was a really cool place. You only see stuff like that you don't only see it in Texas, but it's unique, to small towns is seeing a place that has tires, guns, and a little chicken burger shack. The burger was outstanding. If you're passing through there, it's right off the highway. You can't miss it. So shout out to Kevin and Daddy's. He's not a veteran, but oh well, whatever. He sells guns, so that's close enough for me. I thought that was a good episode. Got to hear from old Herschel Jericho, which would be a great name for a character in like an adventure book. That's a badass name. But anyways, it's a great episode. I'm gonna do something from the Chaz next week. Maybe we can record from Seattle. and that'll be a lot of fun. And I'll kick it to Roger.
All right. So a couple things just to close out my piece on here before I kick it to Josh. Everything is all right with the world right now because the women's U.S. soccer team has come out and declared that they will no longer kneel for the national anthem. Why? Because they are working behind the scenes to stop systemic racism. So they weren't doing it prior, right? They weren't doing it prior throughout their 18, 19, 20, 21 years of life or whatever. During, while as the country burned down over the last year, they weren't doing it during that time. So they took a knee, but now they no longer have to take a knee because they are working behind the scenes to stop systemic racism. So I think the rest of the sports will start to follow suit and also declare that they are also working behind the scenes to stop systemic racism. And we'll, again, have everybody standing, for the national anthem. One other thing we talked about on the last episode, TJ Ducklow, the deputy press secretary. So he resigned. Now, which is interesting. He wasn't fired. He resigned. There's a big difference, right? Because resigning means what? That's on me. I quit. I'm resigning versus you're fired. So I think it goes back to the accountability and, the me too, and I believe, we believe, and she did it, he did it, whatever. Obviously, we don't condone any of it. And, I think our story's always, our stance has always been, hey, let it play out. And if there's something there, obviously convict, do what you got to do and punish. But, man, I think there's so many things that we left off. We didn't even get to the Lincoln Project, Lincoln Project co-founder, sexually assaulting, underage minors. And these are all people on the left, and you're not hearing anything about it. So it just goes back to the hypocrisy. But I'll leave it at that. The Oakley School District final. I don't know if you guys saw the teacher video. That thing is classic, where the Oakley School District, they were holding a teacher conference or whatever. They didn't know it was live, and the lady's like, "Somebody try to call me out. I'm gonna beat that motherfucker," or something like that, right? It was that explicit, and then people are laughing and cackling, and one lady's like, "We're live." She's like, You're like, "Yeah, we're live." And then it was the next day that, obviously it made the news out here for a while. The next day, the president of the district resigned, and then the entire board resigned. So, it goes back to, unfortunately, I think what you have seen in the last year has not only hurt our kids, but it has probably set back the noble efforts of a small percentage of teachers. It's probably set it back a decade from where it was. So with that, I'll throw it to Josh. He can give his final thoughts and close us out.
All right, thanks. So 3 things. Systemic racism is a myth. Texans, you guys got a black eye right now. You guys need to recover from that shit. At least some of you Texans. I won't put all of you in that group. Like, some of you guys need to recover from that. You're not helping my theory that 90% of Americans are cowards. You guys need to be a little self-sustaining and get your shit together. And one thing I wanted to point out, so if everybody remembers episode 39 of the Cub, we had Raylene Klein on. Raylene was running the Blaze Radio at Arizona State University. She was running the radio station there for Blaze Radio. So how she talked about how she got fired because of one of her tweets about Jacob Blake up in Minnesota. Well, lo and behold, guess what? The legal system said she was well within her First Amendment right. So she won her legal battle against Arizona State University. So, hey, big shout out to Raylene Klein. Thank you for standing up for the Constitution. We're so glad that that you stood up, you fought, and you won. And it's a huge win for the First Amendment. It's a huge win for the Constitution. So thank you for what you do. We can't wait to see where you go with that and what you do. Thanks again to Carlton Zeus for letting us use your music, and thanks again for the folks out there who continue to listen, even if you're driving around bodies like Luke's dad. We definitely appreciate the listens. We definitely appreciate the follows. If you want to, you can check us out on all your social media apps, and you can find us on all your favorite platforms. So until then, we will see you on the next episode. And for your YouTube subscribers, your freemium content starts now.
You know what? I don't even think we have to say for you YouTube subscribers or for, whatever. We can just say for you viewers out in India, your content starts now. Because I think, like, no kidding, I think like 95% of our YouTube viewers are from India.
No kidding.
Dude, I love it.
I do too. I dig it. Totally dig it.
I'd like to know why. I mean, if you guys are, if you folks out there in India are listening and watching to this right now, comment on like how you found it, what you like about it. We haven't gotten too many dislikes, but if you thumbs down it, why you dislike it, what you'd like to hear us talk about, because we're curious, man. I mean, it's great, we love it, but I'd like to know.
So the ads that we run in India on Google, and we're talking about just the regular Google ads, right? Like, you go to, gurgle.com, and on the side it shows like suggested items or whatever. So we run an ad for that. We've had 439 clicks on that. And what's great about those is those are positive actions. That's not like, oh, I got to click this to remove the pop-up so I can read the news article, whatever. Somebody actually saw that, read it, our intro, and was like, hey, you know what? I dig it, and I'm going to listen to it now. I would say that probably over half of that actually has turned into a YouTube view. So, I don't know. We'll see, man. Maybe we'll bring it.
No, man, that's good. It's, it's crazy that a lot of folks in India are acting more like Americans than a lot of folks in the United States are.
I'll make a promise right now. I'll make a promise right now. If we consistently get a million views, if we consistently get 1 million views on YouTube, coming from the vast majority coming from India, consistently, I'm talking like over a 20 or 30 episode time frame, I'll move to India and I will live there because I will be able to afford to do it.
If we get another 999,799 views consistently over the next 20 episodes, Pimp Daddy 3000 is going to move to India and eat a shit ton of curry.
Yeah, that's right, man. I love that Indian food, man. I love it. At least the stuff I've had, I loved it. But yeah,
I do too. But I tell you what, I think I like the Pakistani curry better than I like the Indian curry. I like the Afghan curry better than the Pakistani curry. I do, man. I do.
I don't know. I don't know that I've had Pakistani curry. Have you guys had Taj Mahal beer?
No.
Yeah. Yes.
It's pretty good.
It's not bad, man. It's good. So,
well, they should. I mean, isn't that where your IPAs and stuff like that came from? Was that's the whole warm. When the British, right? I mean, they should have good beer.
You're so racist. So when I went to the long course, a guy in my class was he was of Indian descent, and so it was like his second or third cousin owned an Indian restaurant out near Tyson's Corner. I forget the name of it. And so he was like, all right, guys, you gotta guys come here one, Friday, Saturday night and check it out. So we went and, dude, we didn't pay for anything. Like, his relative paid for it all, Comptus, the whole thing. And the food was amazing. And it was the first time I had Taj Mahal beer. And it was like, you're thinking, you're like, all right, man, it's, it's beer. Like, the Germans do beer really well. Not too many other people do beer really well. For all those people out there who like Yingling, who talk about it like it's the second coming, I'm sorry, Ryan. Dude, Yingling is the most overrated fucking beer in the world. But dude, the Taj Mahal beer, I had it. I was like, that's pretty good, man. Let me have another one. And I had probably 7 or 8. So yeah, no, man, I'm a fan. Hey, Pimp Daddy 3000 is going to move to India if we can get the preponderance of views and listens. So
million.
Get to work.
Did you guys see in San Francisco that they did their police reform, right? They stopped sending police officers out to respond to calls. They started sending, what do they call them? Unarmed professionals. Burglaries went up 340%.
I didn't see that. Holy shit.
340%. Dude, you cannot make this stuff up. I think that's why you're starting to see lack of coverage. I mean, everybody hated Trump so badly, right? You got to get him out. You got to get him out. And now you're stuck with Biden. It's like, fuck. It's like, yeah, you got exactly what you voted for. You know, and that's what I think it's that buyer's remorse when there is I'm not saying that Trump's evil. I like the guy. And hey, if you're watching CPAC, he's going to be on Sunday, and it's going to be pretty exciting because even Mitt Romney had to come out and say, yeah, this guy runs in 2024. He will be the GOP nominee for president.
Did you see Mitch McConnell come out and say, so after Mitch McConnell threw Trump under the bus and was like, oh, he absolutely instigated the January 6th, insurrection, riot at the Capitol and everything. And he came out, what was it, yesterday, the day before, and said, I will absolutely support Trump if he's the 2024 nominee.
You got to remember, though, Mitch McConnell is the career politician. He is, for him, it's about the Institute. It's about the Senate. It's about the government, the rule of law. He is your status quo type guy. So you're going to hear that. It's like whoever the GOP nominee is, he's going to back 100%. And even when Trump came out and shit all over him, McConnell didn't come back and retort with anything. I mean, he's a politician, man. I mean, that's just what he does, and like him, hate him, whatever. I mean, he is kind of that. He's not going to pull too many punches that you don't see. I mean, you kind of know where he's going with it, and so there's something that can be appreciated with that as far as continuity goes. It says, your Romneys are the guys that kill you, and the Murkowskis and Collins, and not even anymore. They don't even kill you because you already know how they're going to vote. When they first came in the office, they're really, they're buzzkills because they're like, all right, we got 52, 53, 54. Well, no, you don't because, 4 of those are going to vote the other way, and you already know that. Which a lot of them are seeing, the repercussions of it right now. And so I think it's kind of funny. I've always liked Joe Manchin to an extent. What's funny out here in Arizona is Sinema is catching a lot of freaking heat, man, for, some of her last few votes have been on the right side of the aisle, not necessarily the left. And she is getting crushed by the liberals out here. And it's so funny because it's like, granted, I didn't vote for her, and I probably won't vote for her again because I do think when it comes down to the key issues, like a Supreme Court justice or whatever, she's going to vote on the left or what have you. But she truly is kind of playing the moderate card, and liberals, man, they hate that. It's like, that's not why we voted to put you in office. And I think you're starting to see a lot of that with Manchin. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how that plays out. And so far with Kelly down here, I mean, we haven't heard, dude, I haven't heard anything from him. I haven't heard like a victory speech from that dude. So I don't know what the hell he's doing.
I've seen, I know a person, a couple of people who have interacted with Mitch McConnell on a personal level outside of politics, and they said the turtle, they didn't call him the turtle, but they said he is exactly in person at a party. He's exactly how he is on camera when you see it. Well, I mean, he's like total, just dead stare. He speaks a monotone with his big jaw. I mean, they said that dude, it's like what you see on the lectern is what you see in person. The guy is just like, oh man.
So you're drinking what, Old Forester single barrel? Dude, check it out. These damn calls today. So I get a picture and it's 10:30, so it was after they opened. So our total wine so I didn't win the lottery, which sucks ass because I didn't win the Pappy's lottery, but they got E.H. Taylor Straight Rye, E.H. Taylor Single Barrel, E.H. Taylor Small Batch, Buffalo Trace, and Stag Jr. All at the total wine. Came in this morning. I saw the post. I was like, holy shit, I couldn't go. Sent my wife out there. She went down there. The only thing left was Hancock's.
Yeah. So I saw some of the posts in AWC about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some folks walking out with a whole bunch of EHT and Stag Jr.
Yeah, because you can get one of each.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm drinking Old Forester Single Barrel. I got it from Augusta Liquors there in Augusta, Georgia. It was a barrel pick, and it's fantastic. It's basically like a Bananas Foster in a bottle. is what it is. It is absolutely fantastic. It comes close. It does not beat the Old Forester single barrel strength.
What is it again?
Stuff.
Can you hold it up? Hold it up. What is it?
Yeah. So it's Old Forester single barrel.
Black label.
Yeah, it's the Black Label Old Forester, and it's fantastic. I tell you, I don't care for the Old Forester Statesman. There's something about it. I'm not a fan of it. It's not terrible, but I just don't care for it. The 1920 and the 1910 Old Forester are fantastic. Old Forester single barrel, barrel strength. You can't go wrong with the Old Forester anything. I don't like the Statesman. I know a bunch of guys who do, like the Statesman. So you see Old Forester on the shelf, you're not going to go wrong if you grab it and throw it in. Even the 1897, you're just not going to go wrong with it. It's kind of like Elijah Craig. You see the Elijah Craig, just regular. You see the Elijah Craig barrel proof. You see the Elijah Craig toasted barrel. You're just not going to go wrong with it. It's a solid pour. So I'm headed to Tennessee on Sunday. Monday morning, I am picking up 172 bottles of 147 proof MGP.
Is one coming my way? Right.
For the North Carolina Bourbon Society.
One's coming my way, right?
So it's 147 proof. They were going to mail it, but they can't mail it because it's 147 proof. Therefore, it's hazardous. It's considered as hazardous material. So anyway, hey, that's going to do us for our premium content. We really appreciate it again. We appreciate you guys listening to us and entertaining us. We appreciate Carlton Zeus. We appreciate all the listeners, and we appreciate those in India. And keep listening to us. And until our next episode, keep your canteen cups full of some really good whiskey, and keep them tightly secured.